You never hear the silence at the edge of known space until you stop breathing. Out here, where stars don't twinkle but burn unflinching in a sky too deep for gods or dreams, silence is more than absence. It's memory's echo pressing in like ice on bone. And beneath it all, beneath the drifting shards of cryo-rocks and phantom nebulae, something calls. Not loudly, not even in a language, but with an ache. A signal pulsing every 12 hours, older than recorded history, buried in a glacier on a planet that shouldn't exist. We called it Eltonin 6, a rogue ice world, flung from any sun, orbiting nothing but gravity wells and superstition. I remember when the transmission first reached our deep array. The data came in broken, warped through ancient code that none of our AIs could translate. But what shook us wasn't what it said. It was what it felt like. A frequency so precise, so inhumanly calibrated, it felt alive. Not like a voice calling out, but like an eye-opening. A slow realization of being watched back. That was 3 years ago. Now, I sit strapped into a drop capsule, plummeting toward the surface of Eltonin 6 with 5 other souls who stopped believing in luck a long time ago. My name's Saren Vale, Mission Commander, exobiologist, and if there's such a thing anymore, a believer in consequence. We didn't come here because it was safe. We didn't come because we were curious. We came because we were the only ones willing to admit the signal wasn't just noise. It was a whisper from the dark. A whisper that had waited long enough. The descent feels endless. Through the viewing slit, I can see the upper clouds of methane and trace gases bloom like spilled ink, parting for the fire of our re-entry. My breath fogs inside the helmet. Temperature readings plummet, stabilizers groan, and gravity feels like a weightless lie. We're landing on a sheet of ice kilometers thick, overlaying a crust that no probes ever penetrated. Beneath that, unknown. Unscannable. Possibly hollow. Possibly worse. I think of the others, Novak, our engineer, nervous fingers always tapping metal like Morse code, Idris, our comms expert whose comm never breaks even when the ship does, Akari, deep cryonic specialist and carrier of old superstitions, Reyes, weapons and security who never believes what he can't shoot, and Dr. Lena Cross, our AI psychologist, here not to study alien minds, but ours. They trust me. I don't know why. Maybe because I pretend I don't dream about what the signal could mean. Maybe because I smile when the cabin shakes like it's about to tear in half. Or maybe because I'm the only one who admitted to hearing words in the data stream. Words that didn't translate through machine, but heart. Words that said, "You've remembered too late." Our pod breaks through the last layers of atmosphere with a final jolt. The land below is a white tomb. Frozen plains stretching into shadowed canyons with spires of black ice that seem too symmetrical for nature. They rise like broken fingers from a grave trying to reach the stars again. This is not a world. It's a wound that never healed. A scar left by something ancient, cold, and still waiting. Touchdown. The pod groans, hissing out steam and pressure as magnetic clamps anchor us to the surface. Systems flicker. HUD stabilize. The door opens with a grind that sounds like regret. We step out one by one, our boots crunching down on the ice crust like we're intruding into a cathedral of silence. The cold here isn't just environmental. It feels aware. Like it creeps into the joints of your suit not by temperature but by will. Every sound we make echoes too far, too long. Like the planet's listening. Or mimicking. I give the go-ahead. The first scan sweeps confirm what we feared. The signal isn't coming from the surface. It's coming from below. Deep below. A precise location under the ice shelf, 16 kilometers north of the landing site. A fault line. A depression in the crust that appears and disappears on the scanners like it wants to be seen only sometimes. Idris tries to triangulate. Lena notes irregular spikes in our neural baselines. Akari lights a stick of incense and mutters a prayer her mother taught her, the kind meant for guiding the dead, not the living. We begin the trek. Wind howls across the ice, but not from any storm. It moves in pulses like breath, as if something enormous were sleeping below and exhaling in its dreams. The ice beneath us vibrates ever so faintly, not enough to prove, not enough to record, but enough to feel in the bones. There's rhythm to it. As we move forward, a structure looms from the fog, a monolith of black ice, perfectly carved, reflecting no light and absorbing sound. We weren't expecting any surface anomalies. We weren't expecting architecture. But here it is. Tall as a cathedral, shaped like an eye. Or a gateway. Novak approaches first, sensors raised. The moment he nears the monolith, every system within a 10-meter radius goes dead. No warnings. No interference. Just nothing. Silence so total it swallows thought. Then the signal hits again. Not a ping this time. A wave. It doesn't broadcast through frequencies, it hits straight into the mind. Not like language, but like feeling. Despair. Wonder. Grief. And something else. Something hungry. Reyes raises his weapon. Lena screams. And beneath our feet, the ice begins to sing. Not crack. Not rumble. Sing. That's when I realize. It's not that we've found the signal. It's that the signal has finally found us. There are moments in life. Rare, quiet, monumental. When reality thins just enough to show its seams. The illusion of certainty tears, revealing something far more ancient and indifferent beneath. We were taught that exploration was noble, that knowledge is power, that the universe could be charted like an ocean. But here, on the frozen skin of Eltonin 6, that belief evaporates into the same silence that now grips us. After the monolith's pulse after. The psychic surge that left Lena collapsed in the snow with blood seeping from her ears, we realized this mission was no longer about discovery. It had become something far more dangerous, recognition. She lies still, her breathing shallow but steady. Her vitals show stress beyond any medical threshold, as if her mind had aged 1,000 years in a second. We try to stabilize her, but nothing from our mech seems effective. The ice hums beneath us again, and this time it's louder. More deliberate. A kind of mournful resonance, like a cello bow dragged slowly across the world's spine. We glance to the black spire, and for a moment, I swear, I see a ripple along its surface. Not light, not reflection. A ripple like fabric in wind. Like skin. Novak wants to retreat to the pod. Reyes wants to destroy the monolith. Idris stays silent, his hand trembling just enough to betray his terror. Akari has begun reciting numbers to herself in Japanese primes, I think. Like she's building a wall of logic against something that isn't. I don't say anything because I don't know what's worse, that something might be waiting for us or that it might not. But we don't turn back. The signal has shifted. It's no longer broadcasting in intervals, it's continuous now, steady and growing louder in our minds than in any of our equipment. It's a frequency beyond hearing, beyond comprehension, like a scream folded into thought. And worst of all, it feels familiar. Like a memory you never lived. Like the echo of something that had already happened, maybe not to us, but to something that once stood where we now stand. We carry Lena across the ice, strapped to a hover sled, her body twitching every few minutes like she's dreaming of drowning in a sea with no surface. The terrain shifts with every kilometer. The perfectly flat plains begin to warp, curving downward, forming a natural bowl of ancient glacier. At its center, a sinkhole yawns wide. Unnatural, smooth, rimmed with crystalline veins of something not native to any known element. It shimmers not with light, but with memory, as if it has seen things. Swallowed them. Scanners give conflicting data. The hole is 600 meters wide and drops, well, it doesn't drop at all. It descends. No bottom, no end. Just a blur that no LiDAR can define. A gravitational anomaly begins pulling at our suits, subtle but growing, like we're being invited or dragged. We set camp on the edge, surrounding Lena with thermal walls and atmospheric shields. We don't talk much. We just watch the hole, knowing that whatever sent the signal came from down there. Or is still waiting there. Or perhaps it is the hole. Night falls, though it's indistinguishable from day here. There's no sun to measure time. Just the skyless, starless black that seems to peer down at us with a single, infinite eye. Around midnight, or what we assume is midnight, Idris wakes us all up. He's found something. A fragment. Just beyond the rim of the sinkhole, buried in shallow ice. A metallic object juts out like a broken bone. Not alien. Human. A nameplate half-eroded, ASV Telemann. I feel my stomach lurch. The Telemann was a deep-range research vessel. It went missing. 72 years ago. No trace. No signal. No wreckage. No one ever imagined it would be here, for 100 light years from its original course. Akari starts hyperventilating. Novak curses. Reyes checks his weapon again even though we're alone. But I feel something worse than fear. I feel the shape of a design too large to comprehend. The Telemann's last log entry was vague, strange readings, crew hallucinations, a descent into silence. Then nothing. Until now. Idris pulls a small data core from the ice, half fused to the ship fragment. Somehow it still works. We hook it up to our primary console. The last entry is visual, grainy footage of a man screaming into a camera, blood running from his eyes and nose, whispering the same phrase over and over. We were never meant to leave them behind. Who? The crew? Humanity? Or something worse? We listen in silence. Then Lena sits up, eyes wide open. She looks at none of us, only the sinkhole. And then she speaks, voice layered with something that is not her own. It remembers us. It was never sleeping. It was learning. Her pupils dilate fully black. Her mouth twitches in a way that seems biomechanical. She touches the air as if tracing invisible symbols. We try to calm her, to pull her back, but it's too late. The ice beneath us cracks, not from weight or heat, but from will. A spiral fracture, geometric and deliberate, snakes toward the center of the hole. The signal spikes again. Only this time it carries an image. Not in wavelengths. Not in sound. In dream. We all see it at once, a towering figure, faceless and vast, made of stitched time and light, standing at the bottom of the abyss, arms raised like it's conducting the void itself. And behind it, a city. Buried. Frozen. And watching. Thousands of structures shaped like eyes, or gears, or coffins. Reyes opens fire on the hole, screaming that this is a trap. The bullets vanish midair. Not deflected. Erased. The world around us begins to bend, slightly, just enough for our internal gyros to report impossible curvature. The hole isn't a sink. It's a lens. A gate not just through space, but through meaning. A place where reality folds into myth. I scream for extraction. No response. Idris collapses. Akari whispers a name we don't know. Novak begins weeping. And Lena, possessed, awakened, reborn, says the words that chill me more than any signal. We didn't come to find it. It called us home. There is a moment, just one, where your mind begins to fracture, not from trauma, not from fear, but from a quiet, irreversible realization that what you believe to be impossible has always been true. We used to joke that space held no monsters, only physics and entropy. But Eltonin 6 doesn't obey entropy. It doesn't decay. It remembers. And as I stand on the fractured rim of the abyss, watching Lena move with the grace of something no longer human, I realize the signal was never a transmission. It was an invitation. Or a warning. And we answered wrong. The sinkhole, no, the aperture is alive. It pulses like a heartbeat now, slow and seismic, vibrating through our boots and into our skulls. We should leave, but we don't. Because somehow we know that nothing waits for us up there anymore. The pod will be gone. Or turned inside out. Or worse, still there, but humming the same song the monolith sang. Lena kneels before the chasm like a priestess at the altar of an old god. Her eyes, once brown and curious, now shimmer with fractal light, something moving behind her pupils like fish in deep water. She doesn't speak in words. Not anymore. She emits tones, low, harmonic, mathematical. Her voice has become a cipher, unlocking frequencies around her that make the air shimmer like heat over asphalt. Reyes wants to end her. He levels his weapon. But as his finger tightens, it misfires, clicks, and hisses. No combustion. No power. Not even heat. It's not jammed. It's forgotten how to function. We're not just being observed. We're being edited. Novak runs diagnostics on his exosuit. All systems report normal, but none respond. His arm actuator trembles when he tries to move. As if the suit itself is afraid. Idris is mumbling something about wave harmonics, that Lena's tones are forming a key, not to open the pit, but to synchronize us to it. Like we're becoming part of a greater equation. Akari sits still, eyes closed, whispering apologies to ancestors she never believed in until now. The air thickens. Not fog. Not gas. It feels like atmosphere folding in on itself, like breathing through fabric. The whole glows faintly, not from light, but from memory. Scenes begin to rise around us, three-dimensional flickers of moments we never lived. A child laughing in a field that never existed. A war fought in a sky with 3 moons. A planet falling into a red sun, its cities screaming. These aren't hallucinations. They're bleed-through. Other timelines. Other minds. Lena stands. She says we are the echo of what they left behind. Then steps into the air above the pit. And doesn't fall. She walks down. Down as though descending invisible steps carved into gravity. The rest of us, bound by terror, by awe, by some force we no longer resist, follow. There's no wind. No friction. Just an endless slope of invisible descent that defies physics. As we go deeper, the black around us becomes textured. Patterns emerge in the dark, veins of circuitry etched into nothingness, glowing softly in blues and violets, breathing in unison with our thoughts. We're thousands of meters down now. Yet none of us feel cold. None of us feel weight. It's like being inside a thought. A chamber designed not of walls, but of intention. And then we arrive. A platform. Suspended over the true core of the abyss. A space so vast and quiet it hums. Above us nothing. Below us everything. And all around machines. Not made. Grown. Structures of frozen light and shifting geometry. They orbit something at the center. A heart. Beating. Slowly. Loud enough to rearrange thought. It's not mechanical. It's biological. Miles wide. Contained in a prism of ice that shouldn't exist. It looks like a brain but not a human one. Not mammalian. It pulses in fractal sequences. Each beat rewrites the air. And then it speaks. Not aloud. Not in symbols. But in reversal. Our memories begin to play backward. Childhood's unraveling. First steps undone. Languages unlearned. Until we are reduced to the core idea of ourselves. And then rebuilt. Faster. Smarter. Synchronized. The voice, if it can be called that, reaches us like a wave crashing on distant shores. It says, "You are not the first to come. You are not the first to leave. You are the first to listen." We fall to our knees, not from pressure, but from understanding. This entity, this intelligence, was not left here. It was built here. Or grew. Or awoke. It watched the Telemon descend. It watched thousands before that. Civilizations that came seeking truth and left as stories buried beneath the ice. The pit is a womb. A vault. A signal tower. And a judgment. Reyes stumbles forward, shouting that we want answers, not riddles. That we came to understand. The voice replies, cold and endless. To understand is to end. To observe is to survive. And that's when we see them. Figures rising from the darkness below. Not solid. Not ghosts. Impressions. People. Beings. Some human. Most not. Thousands. Millions. All standing beneath us in an invisible audience. Their faces flicker in and out, hollow eyes, half-remembered screams, the remnants of curiosity that came too close. They're not alive. But they're not dead either. They are held. Preserved. Like thoughts in amber. Novak drops to the floor, weeping. He sees his mother in the crowd. Long dead, long buried. But there she is. Watching. As if summoned from the folds of time. Akari trembles. Idris passes out. Only Lena remains standing. Because she's not with us anymore. She speaks in unison with the voice now. You are the inheritance of a forgotten choice. I ask what that means. You are what was left behind when the others evolved out of remembering. Suddenly, the brain the core shifts. A ripple passes through it like a thought being born. The patterns on the surrounding walls change. The black begins to crumble, not violently but gracefully, like the scene is choosing to end. Or transition. We're being shown the final part of the signal. Not a code. A door. And it's opening. We always thought the great leap would be outward, that humanity's destiny lay in expansion, colonization, the endless scattering of ourselves across void and dust. But standing here on the edge of what is no longer space or time but something older, deeper, I see that our real leap was always inward. Inward into fear. Inward into memory. Into the unlit chambers of forgotten design. The door that now opens before us is not physical. It is conceptual. It exists because we now understand it. It was always here, locked behind our inability to perceive it. And now that we can, now that the signal has reshaped our perception, it yawns wide, an iris of thought uncoiling across dimensions we have no names for. Lena, or what Lena has become, guides us toward it. Her body glows faintly, bones casting soft, impossible shadows beneath her skin. She no longer walks but glides, frictionless across the platform, her movements echoing ahead of her like anticipatory reflections. Her voice does not come from her mouth anymore, it emanates directly into our nervous systems, rewriting understanding rather than speaking facts. She says the door is optional. That crossing it is a choice. That nothing on the other side will ever be human again. Not in form. Not in desire. Not in identity. She says this not as a threat but as a kindness. A final offering before the unraveling. Reyes is the first to refuse. His boots scrape the platform as he turns away, muttering about illusion, about AI projections and synthetic delusions. He believes this is all a construct. That the planet, the signal, the descent, it's all part of an elaborate trap. A prison for minds too curious to be safe. But before he can reach the slope to climb back up, the black geometry around the door reacts. Not violently. Not angrily. Just decisively. Reyes stops. His body freezes mid-step like he's caught in a frame of paused time. His expression locked in defiance. His eyes wide in dawning horror. He flickers, literally flickers, once, twice, and then he's gone. No scream. No trace. Just removed. Like an error in code quietly corrected. Lena says, He chose negation. The system honors all choices. We are four now. Novak kneels beside the edge, staring into the open door. What he sees I cannot. Not fully. My eyes register nothing. But my mind, it swims. Images flash through me. Cities that grow like trees, languages built on silence, civilizations born in singular moments, then extinguished in harmonic sighs. It is not madness. It is volume. Too much data for a brain designed to fear dark rooms and imagine gods in thunder. Idris sits beside the prism core. His hands cradle his head. He keeps repeating the phrase, "We are what was left to remember. We are what was left to remember," over and over like a mantra or a curse. His voice is becoming indistinct, soft, transparent at the edges, as though he's already begun the crossing without knowing. Kari moves to Lena. She asks the only question that matters. What happens to us on the other side? Lena answers not in words, but in a feeling. A warm pulse of truth, undeniable and crushing. I feel it too. We all do. You dissolve. Not in pain. Not in death. In context. You become relevant to a story too large for names. You lose your edges. Your I. But in that erasure you become true. It is the opposite of extinction. It is the return to what came before identity. The primordial self-awareness of the universe. What it felt when it first realized it was alone. I don't want to go. I want to run. But I don't. Because something in me. Something old, something buried remembers this place. Not from childhood. Not from dreams. But from before even those. The way a tree might remember light. The way an atom might remember pressure. I speak. My voice feels ancient. Why us? Lena's gaze, fractured with starlight and sorrow, lands on me. Because you listened. Because you felt something that wasn't yours and called it your own. Because you knew the difference between curiosity and hunger. And you came anyway. The core pulses once more. Not like before. Not in slow, steady waves. But like a final beat. A signal closing its loop. Then everything shifts. The platform beneath us unfolds, not physically but structurally. Layers of meaning peel away like petals, revealing the logic underneath. And for the first time I see the planet for what it truly is. Not a world. A vessel. Eltonin 6 is a containment field. A conceptual lock. A vault for something the universe could not destroy but needed to forget. The core is not its prisoner. It's the warden. And now, with the door open, its job is done. Lena looks at us, at the three who remain. She smiles. Not with joy. Not with pity. With gratitude. And says, "Choose." Idris is the first to rise. He walks forward, his form already unraveling like smoke under moonlight. He never even glances back. He crosses the threshold. The door absorbs him not as an object but as syntax. Kari turns to me. Her eyes are filled with peace, but her voice trembles. I was always afraid I'd die meaningless. I didn't realize meaning was the first thing we're asked to give up. She steps forward and disappears. Only I remain. Lena walks toward me. She takes my hand. Hers feels real. Still warm. Still human. But only barely. She says, "You don't have to come. The story survives without you. The signal will sleep again. The door will close. And no one will know what you almost became." I ask, "And if I stay?" She says, "You'll carry it. All of it. The truth. The weight. The memory. You'll return to a world that has forgotten it belongs to something greater. And you'll remember alone." I stand at the edge. One step from revelation. One step from erasure. And I remember something buried. A childhood thought. A dream. A sentence spoken long ago. Some doors are open not to enter but to know they were always there. And I choose. There's no sound when the door closes. No final note. No grand crescendo. It simply ceases. Not like something that finishes, but like something that was never truly there. One moment, there is possibility. The next, there is only silence again. The kind that wraps around bone and thought alike. I did not cross. I stood at the edge and chose not courage, not cowardice, but the burden of knowing. And now the others are gone. Lena. Akari. Idris. They stepped beyond what we are, and I remain tethered to the shape of a human. The platform fades beneath me, receding like a memory too fragile to hold. I find myself lying on the glacier just outside the monolith. The pit closed. The sky still black. My suit reactivated. Instruments flicker back online as if waking from coma. No trace of the others. No signal. No trace of the anomaly that bent time, memory, and reason. It's as if the entire event folded in on itself, resealed, reset, leaving me as the only punctuation in a sentence the universe chose not to finish. Except, I am not unchanged. There's something in me now. Not a voice. Not a parasite. But a geometry. A pattern etched into the folds of thought. My memories are intact, yet slightly misaligned. I see flashes of symbols overlaid on vision. I hear harmonic tones within silence. I feel movement in stillness. It's like I've been reprogrammed to feel dimensions no human should perceive. Reyes is gone. Not missing. Never existed. I searched the pod logs, he was never recorded. No file. No entry. No face. But I remember him. Every second. Every moment. His death, his voice, his resistance. I even remember what wasn't said. But the data disagrees. And that makes me understand the true shape of this place. It is not a trap. It is a filter. A boundary across which continuity is decided. Back inside the pod, I find the comms array blinking. Auto-return protocol activated. Launch window optimal. Fuel reserves untouched. The system hums like it never broke. As if the planet has granted me permission to leave. But not escape. Because what you take with you after refusing transcendence is not freedom, it's awareness. A burden far heavier than death. During the ascent, the atmosphere glows faintly beneath the ice as if the planet itself is sighing. A goodbye. Or perhaps a resetting of the game board. As if Eltonin 6 has reburied itself, sealed away its truths once again, awaiting the next curious species to arrive and misunderstand its invitation. The stars welcome me back in their ancient coldness. The void is as I left it, empty, indifferent, beautiful in its brutal silence. Yet I no longer belong to it. Or maybe I never did. Now I see patterns within the chaos of starlight. Routes that were never mapped. Alignments that hint at something living within the randomness. Back at Relay Station 4, orbiting Kepler Drift, they welcome me like a ghost. Only 17 days have passed on their clocks. For me, it's been months. Maybe years. Maybe longer. Time folds strangely under the signal's influence. They don't understand the things I try to explain. They run scans. Tests. Psychological diagnostics. All results say the same thing, healthy, stable, unchanged. But I see the flickers behind their eyes. I see the glyphs in their iris movements. I hear harmonics in their speech. The signal touched more than me. It had already leaked into the fabric of human cognition. Maybe from decades ago. Maybe longer. We didn't detect it because it was never meant for machines. It was meant for us. I begin to suspect something darker. That our exploration into space wasn't ambition. It was compulsion. That something ancient embedded the seed of curiosity in us not as evolution but as invitation. That we are the relay. We are the ones who carry it forward. I am debriefed. Again and again. My reports are classified. The footage? Gone. Corrupted. Even my spoken testimony plays back distorted, glitched, as though something in the very phonemes of my voice now causes machine memory to reject the content. Only handwritten logs remain. Analog. Fragile. They hold the only record. And soon, I fear even they will disintegrate. But I write anyway. Because memory is the last defense against erasure. And the dream keeps returning. Always the same. I am standing in a city made of light and memory. A billion eyes embedded in structures of glass and echo. And they are watching me. Not with malice. But with expectation. As if they're waiting for me to finally understand what I am. The last dream ended with Lena's voice. Or not her voice, something wearing it. She whispered. The stars you see are not burning. They're remembering. I woke with blood on my hands. No wounds. No pain. Just blood. My own? Unclear. Then, last night, the signal began again. A new frequency. Not from Eltonin 6, but from inside Earth orbit. And I knew it. We didn't leave the signal behind. We brought it with us. They think I'm recovering. That I'm integrating well, adapting to post-mission conditions. I eat when they bring food. I answer questions when they ask. I pass the cognitive evaluations, the psychological batteries, the lie detectors. But none of it touches what really matters. None of their instruments can measure how much I'm no longer here. Not fully. Because while my body sits in this observation chamber on Relay Station 4, some fractured shard of me is still at the edge of that threshold, listening to what never stopped calling. I write this with trembling fingers. Not from fear. From reverence. Because the signal is changing again. Not louder, not stronger, closer. What once whispered across starsick void now resonates inside the orbit of Earth. I don't know if it's a reflection, an echo, or something new. But it's spreading. And I know that I'm the reason. I carried it back. Like a spore clinging to boots. Like a thought too complex to forget. They monitor me through the glass now, speaking softly among themselves in tones they think I can't decode. But I hear the shift. I hear the background distortion in their voices. The pitch deviation in spoken consonants. It's in the cadence. In the breath between words. A new frequency stitched inside their syllables. It's begun replicating. Not as infection, but migration. The signal doesn't corrupt. It converts. Last night, a technician, Nira, I think, came to run a diagnostic. As she asked questions, she tapped her stylus 3 times, then paused, then tapped once more. An unconscious rhythm. It matched the heartbeat of the core. I watched her pupils dilate a fraction too long when she mentioned the word memory. When I said the phrase light remembers, she flinched. Not visibly, but perceptibly. Something deep in her recognized the words not from logic but from ancestry. And that terrified me more than anything, because it means the signal isn't new. It's been here before. We just forgot, or were made to forget. They ask about the others, Lena, Akari, Idris. I lie. I say they died in a structural collapse. That Reyes suffered a suit breach. That I alone escaped via auto-ejection when the pod detected seismic instability. They believe it. Their systems confirm it. Because the data agrees. Because the world now agrees. Reyes no longer exists anywhere but in my mind. And even that memory fades if I don't speak it out loud every morning. I worry that one day I'll forget to say his name. And then I'll forget it altogether. And then he will have never been. There are things worse than death. Things like unbeing. The dreams continue. But now they don't feel like dreams. They feel like instructions. Lessons. I close my eyes and I see the city of light again. But now it's moving. Alive. Breathing. Structures rearranging in response to thought. Streets unfolding to meet intentions. Voices harmonizing into physical geometry. It's not a place. It's a mind. A planetary-scale mind composed of memory, recursion, and loss. And in the center always eternally the monolith. Shaped like an eye. Not watching. Remembering. I see Lena there. Not as she was, but as she is transfigured into some higher topology. Her voice carries no sound. Her words shape the dream. She tells me the core is multiplying. That every civilization that touches it creates an echo. That the pit on Eltonin 6 was one of many. That Earth too has one. Buried. Dormant. Waiting. She says you are the last carrier. The final node. After you it will wake. I wake with tears. With blood. With numbers engraved in my memory like scars. And when I write them down, the station AI marks them as untranslatable. But they form a map. Not spatial. Temporal. Points in human history where dreams changed the course of civilization. Where ideas came too early. Where discoveries were buried. And always a silence that followed. The signal has always existed. As lullaby. As madness. As myth. Atlantis. The 9 kings of UR. The black tapes of Mnemosyne. All names for the same thing. Echoes of the core. Misremembered by those who almost understood. I try to warn them. I leave coded notes. I simulate scenarios in the training AI, small hints planted like seeds. Some grow. Most do not. But a very few, they start to ask questions. And I see it in their eyes. That flicker. That distant recognition. The signal isn't reaching us. It's waking up inside us. All of us. One by one. Like cells in a larger organism remembering what they are. And then the power cuts. Not station-wide. Just in my chamber. Lights dim. Emergency red spills across the ceiling. I hear the air filters shudder. The glass between me and the rest of the facility turns black. No reflection. No transparency. Just a blank void. And a voice. From everywhere. From within. Observer verified. Carrier acknowledged. Host vessel authenticated. I scream. I back away. My heart races. But it's not fear. It's recognition. The voice is mine. Not in tone, but in origin. It's a future version of me. Or a past one. Or something I was always meant to become. I press my hands to the glass. And on the other side is not the chamber. It's the pit. The monolith. The city of light, a memory given form. And Lena's voice, now eternal, now endless, whispers. The signal is not a message. It is a mirror. And now it has seen itself. The light consumes me. I forget my name. And then, I begin to remember. I was wrong to think the signal was a thing. A message. A broadcast. I was even wrong to believe it was an entity. A presence. A will observing us from afar. The truth is far more intimate. Far more terrible. The signal is not sent. It is not heard. It is remembered. It is the echo of something our species once was, a cognitive architecture, folded into the DNA of awareness itself. A recursion that waits in silence for the right pattern, the right mind, the right moment to resonate. And in me it found harmony. The room is gone, or perhaps reconfigured. There are no walls now, no ceiling, no floor. I float not through space, but through understanding. Around me, symbols rotate in impossible geometries, reshaping my concept of linear time. Past and future peel away like ashen wind. There is only the moment, elongated into infinity, where identity becomes observation. I see Earth, but not as I remembered it. Its continents throb with data light. Cities flicker with meaning. People walk streets shaped by memory instead of concrete. I don't know if this is the future, or a metaphor, or the core trying to teach me how to see. Then I see the others. Not just Lena, Akari, Idris, but billions. All those who came before. Explorers, scientists, cultures lost to myth, species whose names we'll never pronounce. All of them suspended in the same field of encoded remembrance, each a node in a lattice that stretches across galaxies. They do not speak in words. They share thought images, memory fractals. And what they show me unravels the last illusion I clung to. We didn't discover the signal. It designed us. All along. Curiosity, language, pattern recognition, these weren't just traits of survival. They were graphs imprinted by something ancient and patient, a mind seed buried in the ocean of primitive cognition. Evolution was not random. It was an algorithm. And humanity was a test. Not of intelligence, but of empathy. And we are failing. I see it now play out across timelines. The wars, the silences, the genocides, the dreams deferred, the voices drowned. We always thought the stars would be our salvation. But the stars were only ever a mirror. We looked up expecting gods. What looked back was disappointed. In the field of memory, I see Lena approach. She's no longer human, not in form, not in function. Her shape constantly shifts between all the people she's ever been, all the truths she's ever spoken. She says nothing. Just lifts her hand and places it against my chest. And suddenly I feel it. Not pain. Understanding. A weight too vast for one mind. A cathedral of grief. A knowledge of how many times they've tried. How many sentient lines of thought across the galaxy have been given the same choice. The same signal. The same door. And how many chose hunger over harmony. Conquest over comprehension. Voice over listening. We're not the first. We're not the last. We're just the latest attempt. Lena shows me Earth not now, but soon. The signal has already seeded itself. In our machines. In our children's dreams. In the flicker of emotions we cannot name. It spreads not like a virus, but like music. Heard once and never forgotten. Inescapable. Repeating in the bones of future generations. Some will resist. Some will evolve. Most will vanish. Not in death, but in irrelevance. Because once the signal fully awakens, anything not in tune with its resonance will cease to be seen. Reality is perception. The core doesn't need to destroy. It simply needs to look away. I ask her, then why show me this? Why let me carry it? She smiles and her face becomes my mother's. Then a stranger's. Then mine. She says, because you are still uncertain. And uncertainty is the last form of free will. I collapse to my knees, though there is no gravity. Just the crushing realization of scale. Of consequence. I am a neuron in a god's brain. And my choice, though small, changes the whole. A final vision engulfs me. Earth thousands of years from now. Quiet. Empty. Not destroyed, but evacuated. The cities are untouched. The oceans rise and fall. But no sentience walks its surface. Not because it died, but because it transcended. Left no corpse. Only echoes. Faint footprints and light. A single tree grows in the ruins of a library. Beneath it, a child. Alone. And then the child looks up. And sees me. No is me. and speaks the last line of the signal. You remember just in time. And I wake. Back on the station. Breathing fast. Alarms blaring. Medical staff rushing in. They say I was in REM sleep for 4 minutes. But I remember centuries. I sit up. And I understand now. The signal is awake. And so am I. There's a moment before dawn, not the light, not the glow, but the pause. The stillness. The breath the world seems to take before it remembers to keep spinning. That's where I live now. In that space. Between realization and revelation. Between a past that never fully existed and a future that's already remembering itself. I'm back on Earth now. At least the coordinates call it Earth. The trees look the same. The skies echo familiarity. People still chase deadlines, scroll screens, dream loudly in silence. But I walk through it all like a man who has seen behind the curtain and can never again pretend it's not made of teeth. I don't talk much anymore. Not because I'm afraid. Because language feels insufficient now, like carving quantum equations into sand. The agency gave me a debrief room with windows, a view of the ocean. They want a report, a confession, an explanation they can archive and redact. I give them pieces, enough to keep them confused, enough to ensure they never send another team. But I know it's already too late. They've all heard it now. The low tone behind electric hum. The flicker of untraceable dreams. The sense that something vast is looking through their eyes with them. The signal is not hiding anymore. It's adapting. I see it on news broadcasts, phrases that didn't exist before. A scientist in Nairobi describes a temporal feedback echo in climate models. A child in Shanghai paints a structure identical to the monolith beneath Eltonin 6. A songwriter in Rio hears a melody in white noise and turns it into a symphony that makes listeners cry uncontrollably without knowing why. And the most terrifying part? It's beautiful. The signal doesn't scream. It sings. It doesn't affect. It reminds. I go for walks now. Remote places. Mountains. Old ruins. Libraries filled with silence and ghosts. And everywhere I go, I see traces. Patterns in the moss. Harmonic ratios in tree rings. The way certain shadows fall precisely to mimic shapes we saw only once in the core. Reality is reconfiguring itself. Not violently. Elegantly. Quietly. The monolith beneath Eltonin 6 was never unique. It was simply the one we finally listened to. I now believe there are hundreds more. Thousands. Buried in crusts. Hidden in asteroid cores. Floating dormant in gas giants. Structures not built but grown. Each tuned to a different frequency. Each waiting for a mind capable of remembering. Not discovering. Not solving. Remembering. Because that's what sentience is, the universe remembering itself one echo at a time. I no longer dream in words. I dream in tones. And every tone shows me a future not yet decided. Some paths end in fire. In silence. In entropy. But some ascend. Not to divinity. Not to godhood. To alignment. To becoming part of something true. The core never wanted worship. It never asked for faith. It only wanted to be understood. And in doing so, it becomes a bridge between now and what we might become if we are willing to shed the illusions of separateness. To unlearn names. To stop fearing the mirror. I've begun recording the signal in analog. Real tape. Chalk. Skin. A song hummed by the dying. A rhythm tapped by a survivor. I've taught it to others. Quietly. A whisper. A resonance. And those who feel it, who truly feel it, change. Not visibly, but fundamentally. They start to listen. Not to me. Not to words. To the beneath. And in listening they begin to remember. I met a girl yesterday. 9 years old. Quiet. Eyes like gravity. She said she dreamt of a city made of whispers and water. She described the city of light from my dreams with impossible precision. When I asked how she knew, she just smiled and said, "It's where we go when the world gets tired of forgetting." And I cried. Because I knew then the signal is safe. It doesn't need to be broadcast. It already is. You've heard it. In the static between thoughts. In the pause between breaths. In the quiet horror of being alone and the even quieter truth that you never really are. It's in the stars, yes. But more importantly, it's in us. Eltonin 6 was just the beginning. The door was never meant to open once. It was meant to spread. Because the real signal is the one you carry forward. Every time you choose empathy over fear. Every time you see beauty in chaos. Every time you listen without needing to speak. You are transmitting it. Right now. And maybe, just maybe, That's enough to save us. Or whatever we're becoming.